Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, season 16, Couch Madness. 16 shows enter, one emerges as the show we will watch for the remainder of our season. Who will win? Who will lose? And who will die? My name is Magellan. This is a podcast that's not remotely Poli-Sci 101, and I'm required to keep them alive. It's Alan.
You managed to find the one line in an otherwise like pretty dire episode and a very dire scene that had some levity to it. So I'm gonna give you props for that one, boss. That's really good.
Thank you.
Really good work.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, how the heck are you, huh?
The heck? Oh my god, watch your language. First of all, sir. You want to edit that and say something nicer? I want to do an edit where I make you say, how the fuck are you? But I don't have any clips of you cursing, unfortunately, because you've never said a bad word in your life.
Yeah, I don't ever say a bad word.
How the heck am I? I'm doing well. I have this beautiful hot cup of coffee. We're rocking that half decaf. I'm wearing all white today, which is dangerous. I'm wearing white.
That's interesting that you're calling it half decaf and not half calf.
I hear the term half calf. You know what it is? That term reminds me of like high school. I'll meet you at the calf. And I don't like that because I don't like to think about high school. It was a weird time for me. My body was figuring itself out.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a boob was. I knew what a poo was. Is that my seamless pivot?
Oh my god, did I just poem right now?
Did I just eat? Yes, I do. I call it half decaf because it's my tummy doesn't like full calf anymore, and neither does my heart.
Yeah, it's just an interesting like glass half calf, glass half decaf kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. But other people when I mention it are like, "Oh, you're drinking half calf," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess that's the same thing." I don't see why not. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. We leapt. Not we leapt. Well, we did leap. Leap day.
Quantum leapt.
But we sprung forward
mm-hmm.
today, and that's always. I mean, this is the age-old thing, right? Everybody's always saying this. Say it's great that the sun sets later, but I'm a little tired because I lost an hour of sleep, and now I got to fix all my clocks. So, just kind of a funky day.
How many clocks do you have that are analog?
Microwave, oven.
Sure.
There's one on the bookcase.
Yep.
And those are all digital clocks, but they're not.
They don't auto-set.
Like wirelessly connected to something that tells them to change.
I gotcha.
I don't think we have any analog clocks in the house. But then you always go to school. Like as a teacher, daylight savings is a little annoying because you go to school and you're like, is it my job to change all these clocks? None of the clocks are different.
Yeah. So, I take it upon myself in our office whenever we go to like other offices or other rooms in the building, like for meetings and stuff. If I see an analog clock that's wrong, I'm like, I'll just fix that because it's like technically a janitor could fix that, but I don't know if it's their responsibility. So like it takes me 2 seconds to do it. I usually just try to fix clocks. It feels good. I want us to be on the right time.
Yeah, I usually just think about how a clock needs to be fixed for a long time, and then daylight savings happens, and it's right again. So
yeah, it is right twice a year, right? How's the term go? Yeah. Twice a day.
That's right, twice a year. Anyway, speaking of twice a year, let's do something that we do more than twice a year, which is the Simpsons Meme Initiative.
Ooh, I like it when you introduce the segment. That's fun.
Tell me. What Simpsons episodes have you been watching, huh?
You sound so enthusiastic. Turn it down a little bit. All right, folks. I finished the end of season 8 last time with stuff like the Springfield Files. We talked about that. Mountain of Madness, we talked about that. And I hit a big chunk of episodes when I was traveling to and from New York to see Magellan that I feel very mixed on. We start with Homer's Phobia, which is an episode where Homer is homophobic to John Waters. And the whole point is that Homer is wrong, but it is a deeply strange, kind of dated episode in an otherwise decent season of television. Even though, again, Homer is totally the bad guy in this one. It's like, why do they do this to Homer? Why does he have to be homophobic? It feels out of character almost, in my opinion. We come back to Brother from Another Series, which introduces Sideshow Bob's brother, Cecil, played by David Hyde Pierce. That's a pretty funny, memeable episode. Homer versus the 18th Amendment is a very wacky comedy one about Prohibition that I liked. And then I watched a couple with you guys, Grade School Confidential, The Canine Mutiny, which is a cute Santa's Little Helper episode. We get some good Lisa stuff. We get In Marge We Trust, where Homer has this like existential panic about being on a Japanese like laundry detergent or whatever soap, Mr. Sparkle. That's a classic that I had seen referenced a lot. And then I got to watch the very famous and often lauded as one of the best episodes, Homer's Enemy, which is about him and his sort of rivalry with Frank Grimes.
Is it good?
It's a little overhyped. It's not as overhyped as I was worried it would be. Like, it's still good. The comedy of Grimes being like, you know, like just he really wants Homer's life, and then but we know, having watched 8 seasons of his show, that like Homer's life is not something to envy, and the almost like vaudevillian comedy of Homer just like bumbling into success and Frank being a very grounded, real 90s man trying to live. It's like there's still something funny there. And I think it has some great social commentary about like the dying middle class, honestly. Like real talk. It's a smarter episode than everything surrounding it. So it gets a thumbs up for me. We wrap season 8 on The Secret War of Lisa Simpson, which is a pretty good one about gender politics and Lisa going to military camp with Bart. That also has the famous Bart megaphone scene. That's the meme from that one, where he ties all the megaphones together.
Oh,
and he, testing, and he shakes the whole world. And then we got into season 9, which is like weird and feels different, and the quality's vastly like varying. You know, like we've got The City of New York versus Homer Simpson, which is funny, and it's like, wow, Port Authority, I've been there a million times. And that one's got a couple funny parts, but it's overall not that funny. And then we have The Principal and the Pauper, the like another one that people like weirdly hate, right? This is the Armin Tamzarian episode.
It's the ire that people have for that episode is confusing to me.
It's still very funny, and the joke is like people are like, oh, they retcon it, and it's like the joke is it's a retcon, because at the end of it they get rid of the real Skinner, and they're like, we're just gonna call you Skinner, and no one's ever gonna talk about it. Like they literally say that.
Yeah, right. So
I don't know why people are like, this is jumping the shark or whatever. It's just funny. It's about how in TV shows like this, they can reveal certain things about people and then never reference them again.
Right.
Which was a common thing in sitcoms of the like 70s and 80s, you know. So we follow that one up with like Lisa the Simpson, which is the one where Jasper's frozen in the Quickie Mart freezer. That's pretty funny. Lisa Sax, which is a good like Lisa episode, and has that really charming moment where Homer engraves the saxophone with like, never forget your father loves dope. It's really cute. I told that joke to my parents and they both loved it. And then Treehouse of Horror 8, which is excellent. Oh, and then I watched The Joy of Sect. I forgot I watched that one. That's the one with the like the leader is great. Like they have like the cult in Springfield.
I like that one.
It's not remarkable, but it's like, yeah, that's funny. That's definitely funny.
It's a fun one.
So that leads me, I have 3 episodes left in season 9. Which are mostly meme ones, and then we're going right into season 10, which actually I have more episodes from season 10. So
cool.
My favorite Simpsons joke of all time is in season 10.
What's that?
What the hell is Le Grill? That whole sequence where Homer's trying to build the grill, the hibachi grill, and then like he's like, wow, what an amazing grill. Okay. Why doesn't mine look like that? And then the part that always used to get me when I was a kid is you know, Marge is asking Bart like, how's it going with your father, and he's like, I think he's almost done, and then you see Homer running with like a spear going ah! And then like running into the grill and crashing.
It's the parasol
the parasol for it.
Yeah, it nails it and it opens and launches him away.
Yeah, that's beautiful physical comedy to me.
Yeah, very fun.
That's my Simpsons update.
Love it.
What about the fantasy basketball update? How's your team going this week? This is the part everyone loves to skip.
You know, Noel, you're doing pretty well this week, I gotta say. It's been a rocky week for the Vancouver Vampires. We've had some injuries. Poor Tyrese Maxey is out on injury now. Yeah, but we're turning it around. We have the chance to close the week out with a 5-4 win, or it could swing back the other way today. Who's to say? But it was looking a little dire there, 3-6 at one point this week. Oof.
Yeah,
like that. You know, like that. Yeah, I was sweating.
I was sweating too. I'm playing roommate of the podcast, Sean, And I told him, I'm like, most of this week you've been winning. And he was like, nice, hell yeah. And I was like, do you check it at all? And he's like, no, but start active players is the greatest thing you've ever showed me. And I was like, I've given you the power to defeat me. So he's kicking my ass for most of the week, where I'm currently, as of Sunday morning, sitting at 5-4 against him. So I think I'm going to be fine, but it really depends if Anthony Edwards is going to play tonight. He's gamed GTD right now. And so is LeBron James. What is going on with LeBron James's ankle, man? He's got to get it together. I need him to play consistent games because he's such a big investment, and I can't have him being hurt.
You sound like freaking Genie Bus right now, the Lakers front office.
Genie Bus? Is that a real name?
Yes.
That's awesome. Sorry, it's probably rude to say that. I keep seeing those clips of what's his face? Funny guy. Says funny things about, he's a basketball commentator, Stephen A. Smith. And, we just recently learned of the passing of Akira Toriyama, incredible mangaka creator of Dragon Ball, Dr. Slump, etc. One of the icons of culture, if I'm being honest with you. And part of that, Stephen A. Smith did a little, he does those Q&As where people are like, who's going to win in a fight? And someone was like, I'm just going to put the clip in here for the listener, but it's like, who would win a fight, Goku versus Vegeta? But he's like, all right, Goku versus Vegeta. Vegeta, I don't even know what that name is, so I think it's going to be Goku. And it's But no, sincerely, I was very, very heartbroken to learn about Toriyama's passing. People who know me on the internet know that I've kind of been Bulma has been part of my personal brand for 6 or 7 years now, and the person who created Bulma is no longer with us. And died at a tragically young age. So we lost a Titan. And, maybe go watch some Dragon Ball. Original Dragon Ball if you want. It's very sweet and charming. Rest in peace, dead Toriyama. Anyways, what the heck is next on our list, Majel? What do we do now?
I think it's time to get into the business of getting mad on the couch at each other.
Getting mad on the couch sounds lewd. It sounds lewd.
We're two lewd dudes with attitude because we're talking about, these shows don't really match up with that vibe, so I'm going to reset that. This is our second semi-final matchup here in the Couch Madness bracket. This is a contest between two titans of television, two winners of the wavelengths, two victors of vicariously experiencing a fictional world. That's right. Today, we are seeing a matchup between Battlestar Galactica and Fringe. Now, Battlestar Galactica, we're going to talk about first. It was the 7th seeded show in our bracket. It defeated 10th seed Sequest DSV in round 1, 2nd seed The Tick in round 2. Fringe we'll talk about next. It was our 3rd seeded show. It defeated 14th seed Twilight Zone, the 80s edition, in the first round, and the 6th seed Death Note in the second round. And so now we have the two of them facing off against each other here. For Battlestar Galactica, we watched, finally, the first episode of the show. We're done with the miniseries. And we watched Season 1, Episode 1, 33. For Fringe, we watched Season 1, Episode 3, The Ghost Network. So let's talk about BSG first. This episode was written by series creator Ronald D. Moore. It was directed by Michael Reimer. It aired on January 14th, 2005. Alan, what happened in 33?
Quite a few things, actually. In this episode, following the destruction of the colonies, the refugee fleet led by Galactica has been relentlessly chased by the Cylons, who pop up every 33 minutes to attack again, and have been doing so for 5 days straight. Exhausted and out of ideas, the Galactica crew accidentally leave behind a civilian ship, the Olympic Carrier. But certain that it's been infiltrated, they are faced with the ultimate decision. And meanwhile, back on Caprica, Hilo is captured, then rescued again by 2 different Cylons in disguise. Number 33 and Boomer. Gosh, man. Sheesh. So first of all, it's interesting this is Season 1, Episode 1, right? To my understanding of how BSG was promoted, you're not watching this without having watched them. They framed it as the miniseries is the pilot. Because this...
Yes, but the miniseries also aired quite a while before this.
Also interesting. Also super interesting.
because the miniseries aired in December of 2003, and then this episode is airing in January of 2005.
That's so weird, because this episode doesn't function as a pilot at all. It very much assumes you know what's going on. And I think you could. I think viewers are smart, and they could watch this like without all that knowledge. But like, part of the reason that this one works is it doesn't have to spend any time like setting up the situation.
To be clear, sorry to clarify, this episode first aired on Sky One in Britain on October 18th, 2004, but its American premiere was January 14th, 2005 on the Sci-Fi Channel. So they might have, maybe Sci-Fi reran the miniseries or something. But yeah, there's a pretty big gap between when the miniseries first premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel and when this episode hits the Sci-Fi Channel.
Makes sense. And I bet you that they were re-airing the miniseries a bunch. Like, the fans knew what the heck was going on going into this.
Presumably, yeah.
It's often lauded as one of the best episodes of TV. Definitely one of the best episodes of Battlestar Galactica. I thought it was brilliant. I'm not gonna surprise you here. Yeah.
That I contributed to overhyping it.
No, I obviously I try to be very cognizant of overhype when I watch anything, but like, this episode goes by so quickly. It's like so brilliantly paced and sharp, and it focuses on the human element of what getting attacked every 33 minutes means for morale, and so much of it relies on performance and people selling that they are tired, barely conscious, and just making the last possible decision that they could possibly think to make. And when you're in that mindset, what is it? What do you do when an incredibly difficult moral decision presents itself? How do you make that choice? So I think it's straightforward. It works, and it also just inexplicably has a B plot because it's part of a season of television, and that B plot is hilariously like nothing so far. But I I am very much interested in where this is all going.
Right.
So, do you want to talk for 45 minutes straight about Tig and Adama's beards being really long in this episode and how they keep growing beards? Or do you want to tell me instead about what you felt about 33 on the rewatch?
I'll do a little bit of both. I thought their, facial hair was great. I love their bromance with each other. There's just a lot of great stuff in their scenes together. This episode was fantastic. I think it's the kind of thing where you're never going to recapture what it feels like to watch it for the first time, because so much of how this episode functions is about the suspense of like, oh God, are they going to come again? What does it mean that now there's a gap between when the Cylons were here and when they're not? What are we going to do with this big decision about the Olympic carrier, the civilian ship that seems like, the way that the Cylons are following us? So when you're not being surprised by the episode because you've seen it before, it just doesn't have that kind of magic. But what I really liked, being able to watch it a second time and think about thematically, what does this whole 33-minute thing mean? I sort of like discovered an interpretation of how I felt about this episode that was, I think went beyond the like enjoyable TV experience of this is suspenseful and tense, and those kinds of things.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it gave me something different, which was a cool feeling.
Yeah, it's got a good amount going on, right? We're talking about faith versus science versus like, a military strategy. We've got how different people lead. We've got how exhaustion and how like physical wear and tear can change your ability to make decisions, like the psychological toll and all that. And we're learning more about the Cylons. Like, I believe there's a conversation between Six and Baltar about like, the Cylons, despite being an overwhelming force, also have finite resources. Like, there is a sense at the beginning of this episode that, like, we might be able to wear them out as long as we just persist long enough. And that's that human persistence that we love to see. But we have no indication that that's true. We just kind of have to run on blind faith, which, again, comes up in the first plotline I want to talk about, this whole Baltar and number 6 thing. I didn't expect the robots to be the religious ones in this show. What's going on there with freaking number 6 being like, God has a plan for you all? It's like, hold on, you're the robot. I guess you know what's going on there, right?
What'd you say?
I said, I guess you know what's going on there, having watched the show. But did you find that interesting as well?
I mean, there isn't much to know about what's going on there, I don't think, except what you're describing of like, well, isn't it kind of intriguing that these robots are... I think there's time spent later in the show's run where you more deeply consider, you know, what is the interiority of these like human-seeming Cylons, and how did the Cylons arrive at creating versions of Cylons that look like humans? Why did they do that? And the show gets into those questions of, like, to what extent are they human, or do they have personhood, and what is the shape of that personhood? But when it comes to the religious stuff, I think it's pretty much here on the page. We're being confronted by like, okay, you're a robot and yet you have faith. Why do you? Aren't you not supposed to have faith? But then that makes us question, I think, back on ourselves. Well, why do we think this sort of cold, rational robot being wouldn't arrive at having faith in something? And why then do we feel like faith is an appropriate thing for us to have? So, you know, on some level, it kind of bugs me when we look at this show through the lens, as we've talked about before, of being like a post 9/11 show, and the Cylons kind of sometimes represent the sort of other that American society is fearful of, and then their religiosity feels a little like Islamophobic, kind of, sorta. But then I think separate from that, you know, it's a cool investigation of, well, what if in the sci-fi world the people of faith are people who you would argue don't have a soul? And there's a lot of conversation in this episode about, instead of saying human lives being lost, we're talking about how many souls are lost.
Right.
And yeah, I think that just poses a lot of cool questions about what is our faith in kind of the like cosmic reality of what's going on here. Who has faith? Who doesn't? Why should you? Why should you not? So I liked it. I thought it was interesting. That's
a really good point about how their faith is not, like, it is othering on purpose. It's not supposed to be like, oh, they're just like us. It's like, no, their faith is, the way they approach it is different. We just aren't gonna give them the, like, we're not gonna go fully Islamophobic. We're just gonna talk about how it doesn't even have to be that. Like, it's just they have a faith that is like radical and different than ours in a time of American history when what we were especially afraid of was Islam, which I think is super interesting. And is a creative choice that they make that I appreciate and respect. I also think that the humans in this episode are like faithful in their own way, right? Like, there's this very deliberate shot early on after one of the attacks where everybody walks by a poster and taps it for good luck. Yes, and it's like, true. There are rituals that these people make even in their hardest time of life that are spiritual in nature and are superstitious in nature. So just because the Cylons are the ones that talk about God doesn't truly fully mean that the Galactica crew are not religious or spiritual. They just are approaching it differently.
Yeah, and you have that amazing sequence. It's like a blink and you'll miss it little scene where Duala, who she's like the communications officer on the bridge, or she like goes to this office on the Galactica that's in charge of, I guess, tracking and keeping record of who is alive and who survived the Cylon attacks. And she comes to them like, here, I have this picture of my family and I want to know if they survived. And the guy's like, look, we can't transmit photos right now. We don't have that capacity. So you're just going to have to like hang that photo up on the wall outside and like hope. Essentially the message is like, mourn for them because they're probably dead, but also there's this twinge of hope that they might still be alive. So it's like kind of a memorial, but kind of a manifestation of what you want to be the case. And then she goes out there, and there's this great sequence following her where she goes down the hall, and wall after wall is covered with photos of people's loved ones, to the point where there isn't even room for her to put the picture up. And she kind of just stands there holding it, like, I don't know, like, where is my faith supposed to go? It almost feels like I don't have a place for it. I want to believe, but just like the reality is not allowing me to do that. And I think that speaks really powerfully to what you're describing, that like this is an episode that's about faith. And just because Duala isn't saying like, dear God, please, I hope my family survived, she's still experiencing a moment of like a crisis of faith. And she's looking for answers in the midst of it.
She's really good.
Yeah.
She does some of the best, like, I'm really sleepy, but I'm not going to say it acting.
Yeah.
Like there's that scene where Tai and Adama are talking about whose turn it is or whatever to like, I forget what they're actually doing. What's the activity?
To take a 10-minute break. And like,
that's
sleep.
what it is.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, I decided. It's obviously Adama. And she's like, it's yours, Commander Tai. And he's like, the dude is so tired he doesn't even realize it's his. And I was like, she's just like, she's playing along with the big boys. She's standing up to everyone else in the show, which I really like.
Yeah.
So shout out to her.
And I really I think she's an underrated character. I like Duala a lot, and I think this time around the scene that was like the most like kind of gut-wrenching and difficult was the part where she realizes that she made a clerical error and like lost track of a ship because she's so tired. And then they're talking, and it's like, yeah, I think there were like 1,300 people on that ship.
Ooh,
like, fuck.
There's a total of 50,000 people, or 49,998 left. That's so significant. Ooh,
yeah,
ouchie,
like
ouch,
you get so sleepy that you lose 2% of the human race. It's like, Jesus, that is what pressure that is, and how do you keep going and continue to trust yourself to be in this role when those kinds of mistakes are possible?
Easily.
And then Tai tries to be like, we gotta do this, and Adama just says, we make mistakes, people die, there aren't many of us left, carry on.
Keep going.
Yeah.
The show is really tapping into that like fundamental human spirit thing that I love, and this episode is full of it, of like, why do we keep doing this? I don't know, because what if it works better the next time? Like that my favorite scene in Sense8 that we always reference, when Riley's on the plane and then Kaffy is in her brain and tells her like, what if, she's like, I worry that this is gonna go wrong, and he's like, but what if it goes well? God, we should rewatch Sense8. Anyways.
Yeah, I think what I think is brilliant about this episode being like the first kind of conflict that we have in the show is it outlines what are the fundamental strengths and weaknesses of humanity when faced against an enemy that fundamentally thinks and acts differently from us. And the episode is outlining like, well, the thing that's tough for humans is they need to sleep. And if you can interrupt their sleep and just chase them around for 5 days straight, eventually they're going to make a lot of mistakes and lose.
Right.
And a strength, like you're saying, of humanity's is this sort of insistence on marching forward and continuing, even when that's not necessarily like rational, even when there's no end in sight. But again, like we're talking about, you can have faith in this idea that like there's got to be a way out of this situation. If we just come up with a different plan, if we tackle this from a different angle, even though we've done like 237 hyperspace jumps, I bet you on number 238 we're going to finally crack this nut and figure out what is going on. And I think, kind of circling around that, the theme that spoke to me the most about this episode is like what this conflict represents about humanity's propensity to recognize patterns in the world around us and the ways that can be an asset. We notice that there's like a 33-minute delay between each Cylon attack. We see oh, there was this ship that was gone for a bit and they didn't attack. Now this ship is back. But that also is a way that we can be manipulated. And we see, in the conversations that Six has with Gaius, where she's like, look, the guy who was going to expose you was in the ship that got lost. So God is protecting you. That's how it works. There's a thing. There's a, one event and another event, and we're just going to connect them together. And you see characters throughout the episode having to take those kinds of connections on faith and trust that they've like observed a pattern in the world and they've come to a conclusion about it, when there's so much that they don't know, and they're certain that they know that there's a lot that they don't know.
Known unknowns.
Right.
As Robert McNamara said.
And so that all culminates in that final choice of like, well, I guess we got to blow up this civilian ship, because it could be that there's Cylons on it. But it could also be that the Cylons have been fucking with us for 5 days.
Yeah.
And like let us think that our own ship was the problem, and then we blew it up. And that's a way for the Cylons to like game us and game our pattern recognition and have us blow ourselves up one ship at a time. And we just don't know. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, but like, what's the mental chess going on here? Do they do this because like we're falling for it and they know we are? Or is it a simple plan of just wear us out and kill us? Is it they are actually also running out of resources, and if we keep jumping, then they are going to lose first? Like, there's so much calculus going on. Also, just to correct myself before someone, I don't think anyone's going to tell me, but I'm telling you myself. That was Donald Rumsfeld who said the whole unknown knowns thing, known unknowns, that quote, which was also in 2002. So like really timely, talking about weapons of mass destruction. Whoops. Anyways, so speaking of like calculating things, another plot device in this episode that I really liked was President Roslin using the whiteboard. I thought it was a little cheesy at first when she was like, here's the total number of people. How many died? 1,000? Okay, counting it, 49,000 left. Is it then also really cheesy but good at the end when Billy is like, you're going to have to add one more to that because a child was just born. And she's like, yay! That's awesome!
That scene is great. That scene is so good.
So much of it relies on the actress like really committing to how much that matters, that one person was born, because we start, I think when you start counting things like that, it like decreases the value of individual human life a little bit, for better and for worse. But then when it's like one person, it's like, that's a person who could be the next president. That's the person who could save us. And it reminds us that another part of the human spirit is acknowledging individual human life and appreciating it. So
right. And
shout out to Mary McDonnell.
Yeah, she does a great job in this episode. I love the moment where they have to subtract 1,000 people or whatever, and then she, through pursed lips and tear-filled eyes, says, "Okay, next crisis."
Yeah.
She does a fantastic job. But yeah, I love that ending because it says a lot about, again, kind of like a thing that our patterned thinking can do to us sometimes as human beings when we're in a situation where all feels lost, where everything's going wrong. We start to like only see or think about what could go wrong or what are the like forces that are aligned against us, and lose sight of the fact that there are forces that are resisting that as much as death is a reality in this world, there is the possibility for the human race to restart and grow, because birth is a thing and we can persist through it. And I think that's just such a powerful reframing of how the characters are thinking at the end of this one.
Right, exactly. Oh, man. She's so good. Billy's so good. I love Billy. He's this like 18-year-old as the chief of staff. That's where we're at right now with the VSG. Yeah, he looks like a recent Stanford graduate.
Right.
He's the chief of staff,
his internship or something.
Precisely. Any other big details from this one? I know I have a lot more I could say, but I don't want to be on this one forever.
I really enjoyed how the plot device of everybody is really underslept meant that we had a lot of scenes of characters snapping at each other and then being like, I'm so sorry. I enjoyed the head mechanic guy yelling at his mechanic people. I liked, like we were describing, the interactions between Ty and General Adama.
Yeah.
I loved the scene. One of my favorite scenes was when Starbuck and Lee are in the Viper hangar bay. And it's like they're supposed to take stimulants so they can stay awake. And Lee's like, you gotta take these pills. Starbuck's like, I don't want to. And then she chews him out for not being a more forceful leader. And then at the end of her giving that monologue, she just starts laughing and is like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take those pills. It's such a good scene and says so much about their relationship, about these conflicting ideologies about what leadership is, what it should look like. I think it beautifully mirrors the Ty and General Adama relationship and shows you like part of the reason that Colonel Ty and Starbuck clash so much is because they're so similar to each other and they have very similar philosophies about how things need to get done. And I think it's also a good kind of preview of what it looks like when Lee and Starbuck have to ultimately make the decision to blow up the what's it called? The ship that they blow up.
The Olympic carrier.
The Olympic carrier, where Lee takes on the responsibility of like, I'm the leader here. I need to make a hard, calculated decision. Starbuck stays in that posture of like, this feels wrong, and so we shouldn't do this. And not to say that one of them is like more right than the other. I think it's an interesting sort of moral question to debate. But just the detail of the character work there, I think, is really powerful. So I like that whole thread a lot.
Characterful. Also love the part, speaking of this being a serialized show, where Starbuck is like, I think it's a bad idea that we take stimulants. And Lee's like, well, you have to. And she's like, this will come back later. She basically says, like, this will be a problem in the future. And as someone who's watched TV before, I'm like, yes, an arc has been formed. Babylon 5, same thing. Hey, Franklin, take these drugs. I'm sure this won't be a problem later at all. It is extremely a problem. So, setting pieces. Despite this being a self-contained episode, they are still setting a lot of pieces on the board, which is really, really well done.
Yeah. Then there's a bunch of Hilo stuff on, I think that's Caprica. That's like fine. It gets more interesting later.
Yeah, I believe it. I think that this is just like, we got so little of it. It has so little time in the episode that it feels ridiculous to be like, he wakes up, he's captured. Oh no, Six rescues him. Oh no, she's shot. Oh no, it's Boomer. It's just like twist, then twist, then twist. That's why I said that in the summary. Is like, he gets rescued, then unrescued, then rescued. Like, I'm sure that'll go somewhere cool.
Yeah, but what it does for us at least is it shows us the capacity that the Cylons have to play mind games, which I think makes you wonder, is the whole thing with the Olympic carrier a big mind game? I think it contributes to that a little bit.
Is that ever firmly answered, whether the Olympic carrier thing was a Cylon plot or not?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay, because there's a point where Lee rides by it before blowing it up and says, like, there's nobody on board, which is exactly what I guessed as soon as it happened. Like, they're not responding to comms because everybody died. And so what I assumed was just the Cylons killed everybody on it and set it on a course to crash. And that's all they had to do. They went on, they killed it. Because it was left behind, they were like, nice, we have a plan now. But I don't know. I think it's more interesting that it's not like explicitly answered.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have on this one.
All right.
Let's move on, huh? We're going to talk now about Fringe, Season 1, Episode 3. This episode is called The Ghost Network. It was written by David H. Goodman and J.R. Orsi. It was directed by Frederick E.O. Toye, and it aired September 23rd, 2008. Magellan, can you tell me what happened in The Ghost Network, please?
Following a strange, apparent terrorist attack on a bus, Olivia, Peter, and Walter find a man, Roy, played by Zach Orth, who foresees future disasters before they happen. Before we talk about this episode, I want to hear your Boston transportation rant about this.
Oh my
Because
god.
I saw in your notes some thoughts about it.
Yeah, I started going off a little bit because the climax of this episode takes place at South Station, and without doxing myself, y'all, I first of all, I work partly for the MBTA, the Boston Transportation Authority, and second of all, my office is like 5 minutes in a 5-minute radius near South Station. I go there every day. That's my stop when I go to work. This is not what South Station looks like. This is not how it works. I did research though. The wiki says that where they are going is the South Station bus terminal. But joke's on you, I've also been there a lot because I've taken the Greyhound before. That's like down the street. That also doesn't look like this. What are you doing, guys? The signage is wrong. The trains are wrong. And granted, it's 08. I know they've changed the trains since then, but like they don't even have colors on the lines here. They don't even talk about like what line they're on. It can't just be the bus station because at one point they walk on a train platform. They make a series of mistakes here that show that the show clearly doesn't care about being in Boston, like specifically. And I am annoyed by it, and I have to point it out when it happens. But this is, if you come to Boston, you're going to see South Station. It's a beautiful site. It's a historical site. It looks nothing like, there's like flowers and stuff. There's a part where Peter and his dad go to a diner, and it would have made total sense for it to be at South Street Diner, which is like a 5-minute walk from South Station. And yet there's like trees and stuff outside, and that's not South Street Diner. Also, different movies and shows have filmed at South Street. They let you film there. So why didn't they just do that? I don't know. I think this whole show was like fucking filmed in Vancouver, and they just did their best. But literally anybody with a remotely elementary knowledge of the city of Boston would be like, none of this is accurate.
Yeah,
that's my take.
Yeah, it's just an odd TV thing. This show really like fills the episode with, this is set in Boston. Look, we're in Harvard. Oh, we used to live in this house in Cambridge, but then we had to move to Alston. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, you're saying the names.
You got me there. Dewey Street exit at South Station.
Yes,
sure,
correct.
Sure. Like, why are you like trying so hard to be set in Boston and then just not filming? I mean, maybe they film on location in some parts, but you know, it's a TV show. They're going to film in the cheapest city. It's just kind of funky.
Yeah, it looks like Google says season 1 was mostly filmed in New York City, actually, which is funny.
Okay.
Because it is cheaper to film there. I know that. They have lots of shots of like the John Hancock Tower though. So like it's just annoying. All the exterior shots are actually like the pans like over certain stuff.
Shots. Yeah, we like flew over Fenway Park at one point, and there's like this Cheers music in the background. It's like, okay, whatever. I get it.
It's a cool idea to set a show like this in Boston. I wish you actually did it. I know the realities of filming TV don't work like that, but it matters when you put the effort in, right?
Come on. That's just our little South Shore rant, okay? But we're done with that now.
We're good. Let's talk about the Ghost Network, though.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Would you put metal in your blood if you meant that you could talk with a bunch of the homies over the Ghost Network?
Well, if I got to listen in on the homies is really what it is. Listen in on those Discord calls.
If you had Discord in your blood, oh my god. Well, as we learn, if you move it around, you can then talk, or you can listen. Like you can do different stuff. You can taste the homies. Sorry, I'll relax. Sorry. There is a part where Zach Orr's character tastes the information, and I was like, "This is nuts. This is such a weird premise." Yeah. I'm fascinated by Fringe. Every time we come in, I'm like, "What wildly gross, disturbing concept are you going to introduce to me this week?" And like, on its base level, the episode premises for Fringe so far have been kind of fire. Like they are pretty traditional, and they're very villain of the week, but they're like good villains of the week, and it's really violent for a network show, and like then we get to tap into some bigger storyline stuff. Like this is a very successful episode of what it is, which is a pretty solid mystery series. What'd you think?
Yeah, I continue to really enjoy the ideas in the show. We start the episode by filling a bus with Jell-O. kind of
we
awesome.
Do. Yeah,
we just find this bus in a tunnel. It looks like there's a gelatinous cube in there. And then the whole thing with Zach Orth's character, where you think that it's this kind of superpower of like he's precognitive or something. He's making all these charcoal drawings of attacks that are going to happen, which by the way the art department did an amazing job.
Yes,
with his drawings and his models. All that stuff was so cool. And then you learn that it's not that he's precognitive, it's just that he's accidentally tuning into like cell phone calls, but doesn't know that that's what's going on. And I love, it's a little, if every episode is going to be like, oh, Walter did an experiment 30 years ago and then somebody else made it worse, I don't know if I want that to be the thing every single time.
It's exactly the same premise as last week.
Yeah, but I do enjoy the idea that Walter's like, I was trying to make freaking telepathy, and instead they made a boring knockoff where you can just like spy on phone calls. This sucks. So stupid. Anyway,
I don't want this anymore.
Let me try to solve this mystery for you.
Yeah, I think the Walter thing can't last beyond one season. Like, eventually you have to be like, sure, he did a lot of experiments, but like, so what? Like, okay, I get it. He did this and he did that and he did the other thing. And they keep talking about his partner, and like eventually you have to drop the partner and like talk more about him. So I think the premise setting up that Walter has done a lot of experiments is actually cool, but I can just tell it's gonna run out of steam if they do it too much.
Yeah, and I have faith that they're cooking something up, because we get some movement in this at the end of this episode where it's like Broyles is working for Massive Dynamic, maybe, or working closely with them.
Yeah.
And, why is it that they want Olivia on the job? What's the deal with the pattern? What are we not being told? So there's more to learn for sure.
Yes, so much.
But, right now it's just sort of like, Walter did another wacky experiment and he has the solution for it in the wall of his old house. And that has diminishing returns, I think.
The matchup this week is going to be so hard, dude. There's a lot of things I like about this show. And I was like, oh, this will be such a slam dunk. BSG is going to be like, cook this. And then this episode was like fun and good and like deeply, deeply watchable. And I was like, oh, shoot. Here we go again. Oh, no, it's good. We learned some other stuff, though, that's really interesting. I mean, I love this opening scene, and I think Belfast, based on the cathedral that they talk about being in or something.
Based on the word art that's floating in the sky, you mean?
I missed the word art this time. I know it's your favorite detail.
I still hate that so much. Looks so
a man is in confession. Zach Orth is in confession because he can see crimes before they happen. I love the priest here being like, son, did you do a crime? Did you do it? And he's like, no, I can just see them. And he's like, but did you... I legally have to tell the police if you did a crime. That's a true thing, by the way. Priests, if you would admit to a crime, have to actually, I'm pretty sure. I guess that depends on the religion. I'm not going to make a broad statement there, but I remember asking someone about that at one point. So anyways, Zach Orth, star of... he works with Michael Showalter as a comedy duo. We know him from Wet Hot American Summer. It's fun to see him here. He's drawing these fucked up images. Olivia is at her boyfriend's funeral. She's getting looks from other family members thinking that she might have been involved. But John is dead, fully 100% dead. Pay no attention to the end of this episode. And his dead body that is still there. We learn about the explosion on the bus, or not the explosion, the gas, the gas grenade that turns into a bubble. A Jansport is stolen. I love that a Jansport backpack is a primary plot device in this episode. What's better than a mysterious Jansport? It belongs to a Miss Mendoza. She's a DEA agent, so we get some FBI DEA crossover stuff. Mendoza was investigating the pattern. That's another concept that comes out again. And as Olivia and company are learning about this, they find Roy, and we get this horrifying scene of Roy getting MRI'd. And if you have like anxiety about MRIs, you shouldn't watch this scene. It's not that violent, but if you are already afraid of MRIs, this will destroy you. Because he has metal in his blood, and you can see his veins coming out of his body. Ugh. I think they could have got... I'm a sicko. I was like, they could have gone worse.
Give me more.
I'm not afraid of MRIs personally, but I totally get why this is so scary. Like metal in your body coming out, horrifying. Horrifying. In this, though, we learn that the metal in his blood is, like you said, something that Walter put in as part of an experiment to make a human communication network. And that I love the detail. I don't love. Sorry, it just when they're like, oh, Roy was one of your subjects. And he's like, oh, Roy, I forgot that I literally worked with the main character of this episode. Shit. It's like, Walter, I know you're taking a lot of drugs, but like, sheesh. And it's also, that was like decades ago, but good God.
The part where Roy says, Doctor, you look really familiar to me.
Yeah.
Has this sort of grim comedy to it that I really enjoy.
That's the tone of Fringe that I like so much. Like, we go from that to then Walter being like, let me explain the Ghost Network. So here's this optical illusion of a duck that looks like a rabbit, but it always comes back to a duck. It's like so fun. It's such a funny way to explain like how the human brain works.
Yeah.
I appreciate the levity.
And then Peter is his son's name, right?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Peter says, we get it. And Olivia says, I don't get it. Peter says, yeah, I don't get it either. I just want him to stop.
That's such a good line.
Yeah.
We get some great.
I also, the other little comedic thing that I enjoyed when they're gonna do brain surgery on Roy is there's this kind of like building the tension. The music is swelling. We drill into his head, and the moment that we puncture his skull, all of the tension releases from the scene.
Like it came out of his skull.
Scream. Right. He's not in pain, seemingly. It's just like, oh, okay, I guess this is working. And then the freshmen knock on the door and they say, is this Poli-Sci 101? Olivia
not
says,
even close.
Not remotely.
Yeah.
So the show gives you a goof and a giggle every once in a while.
With like violence. Like the violence is goofy too. They drill a hole in this guy's skull and they're like, all right, work is being done.
Yeah.
I love the Astrid content here. I'm so happy to see more Astrid content.
Astrid is the best.
She's so good. She translates Latin flawlessly. Not flawlessly. There's a part where Olivia's like, oh, it means this. And she's like, that is one good way to translate that. Because Latin's not a language you can like literally translate. It's an like kind of interpretive. But so much good Astrid content. As she's listening to Roy, and like they turned the sensor onto his voice so he can say what he's hearing on the phone call. And she's translating it, and it's in Latin, and that's pretty sick. Which leads them to South Station, where they chase down the guy who has the thing, and then they catch the thing, but then he jumps in front of a train. Oh no. The bad guy's dead. We lost one lead, but we got the disc or whatever that had the data that he was carrying. We give it to Broyles. Do we
know anything about the disc, or just that it seems like it has information on it?
I think it has information. The way I understood it was it has information on the Ghost Network and how it works, maybe. And or maybe something bigger than that. But the point is, Broyles has that he gave it to Nina from Massive Dynamic, and he said, I don't want to go through red tape. I need you guys to just help me do it instead. So it's not that he's betraying them. It's that he's actually just working with the sketchy people.
I see.
Is, again, how I understood it. And that's not a good... He's not telling them that, so that's like also sketchy from Broyles to do that. And the episode ends on a shot of John, Olivia's boyfriend, and his dead body presumably being fed the data from the disc. Are they going to put John on the Ghost Network? What's going on with John? I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. Questions.
This show is it's a little formulaic right now. We're like 2 episodes in a row that have like the exact same arc. Something weird happens. We investigate it. It has to do with our research, and we solve it using surgery and pseudoscience. And then the bad guy gets away, but we get the item, and then something happens in the bigger plot line. That is exactly the arc of this and last episode.
Yeah, and it feels like a show that's going to have to do that for a while until they build up enough of the bigger plotline stuff that can start sustaining an episode.
Yes.
So it's not my favorite phase of shows like this, but I also recognize it as like a precursor to a really cool show.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's got more building potential because it's the first season of a show that's going to go for a little while and answer these questions. Like what we always hear from people about Fringe is like, this is a show that resolves. So something to think about. Any other details though that you had from the Ghost Network?
I don't know how I feel about Olivia's supervisor, Charlie. He's like kind of a question mark to me.
Love Charlie.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. I really enjoyed when they're at the funeral for John and she's talking about how she was manipulated. He said he loved me. And then Charlie says, I wasn't going to tell you this, but he said he loved me too. And it's just like a nice human moment between the two of them where he knows that joke is the kind of thing that she needs. And who knows how much Charlie knows or what is gonna I feel like there's going to be some twist with this guy. He can't just be kind of a normal FBI dude who doesn't know anything about the pattern. But that little moment of human connection was really charming.
That's exactly what I want from him. Is he doesn't seem to like know much about anything, but then he accidentally stumbles into a huge reveal, and then maybe he's like killed, and that motivates our characters. Is my guess with how this would work in another show. Other details besides Charlie being their best?
I think that's what I got on this one.
I love that scene of them playing the piano. Love piano music.
Yeah, the piano stuff was nice.
Olivia, we got the Jansport, we got the pattern. I said that. MRI scene is spooky. The South Station stuff bothered me. No, I think that's it. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, I'm not going to say what I was about to say. It has to do with the next episode. I read the summary of the next episode.
Okay.
Bad boy. With that, though, I think we can take it to a brief musical break. And when we come back, we'll make our decision with who wins and who dies. Battlestar Galactica or Fringe. Right back after this. Welcome back to Couch Madness. I'm trying to say it the way you say it at the top, Magellan. Welcome back. Madness.
It's good. You did a good
Thanks.
job.
How are you? You still good?
Yeah, I'm feeling great.
I had a great break. I listened to that little musical break. I used the bathroom. I put my yogurt in the sink. I put the pickle in the fridge. What's better than this?
I put the pickle in the fridge.
Exactly. We're here to talk about this matchup. We're making a decision now. Yep.
That's right.
Settle in. It's BSG versus Fringe. Sci-fi versus sci-fi mystery. Two aught shows about weird people doing weird things. Magellan, we have a foolproof method for this.
What is it?
Well, it involves a couple of criteria. Is criterion the plural of criteria? Is criterion?
Yeah. No, criteria is the plural of criterion.
Criterion is one. Criterion is single
That's
criteria. We have criteria for this. Thank you for criterecting me. What? Our first criterion is gut checks. Touch your belly. Listen to your heart. I know. Now rub one and tap the another. I'll go first this time. I feel like I always make you go first on gut checks.
You do.
And that's why I'm doing this. The way my eyebrows just lifted when he said that. Like, whoa. Scary. Okay, BSG versus Fringe. There's a lot that I like about both of these things. They both have overarching mysteries that I want to know more about. I'm not spoiled on either one of them, but you've watched one of them.
Yeah.
I'm just cognizant of that fact and the fact that, yeah, I know people say politically BSG gets kind of murky, and also the ending is kind of a disaster depending on who you ask, and that's kind of good and bad at the same time. I'm gonna go ahead and say Fringe for my gut check, even though I liked a lot this, and that's wild, right? We just watched 33, but I'm picking Fringe as my gut check, dog. That's what I have to say, and that's because, one, we haven't seen it. Two,
okay.
It's like it's gonna be more consistent. It's like, I know that it will be good. I don't know how good BSG will continue to be, and I don't think it'll hit the level of 33 every single week.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel?
That's interesting. You kind of surprised me there. I thought you were gonna go BSG.
Well, I like consistency.
My gut check is also Fringe for slightly different reasons. It's actually not because I think Fringe is more consistent, but it feels right now like Fringe has more potential to surprise me. And
yeah,
I know that's partly because I've seen BSG before, or most of it, so I know where most of it's about to go. But also I think like the way that BSG does the kind of full show big picture arc stuff is like not even at this point in the show, I think you can kind of see the ways in which it's a little not exciting or kind of like twist for twist's sake, like we saw with some of the Hilo stuff. I think the character work is superb and superior to the character work in Fringe, honestly, at this point. But I think it just like when I'm watching Fringe, I have the trust and the feeling that they've got something in their back pocket that's really about to fuck me up, and I want to see it. And they're like, nope, I don't want to show you. And I'm like, please show me. Come on. What are you planning? I want to know.
There you go. That's Mystery Box working on you. I know.
Right. And maybe that's a bad thing. Like, maybe it's not going to be good or something. I don't know. But my gut, just purely gut check, is that Fringe is something. Like, if we were to go to the next round and it's like the BSG episode versus the next Xena episode, I don't see BSG catching us by surprise and beating Xena, but I see Fringe doing something in its 4th episode that makes us go, whoa, hold on a second. Maybe this wins. So that's kind of why I'm leaning Fringe.
Okay, fair enough. Is it cheating if I look up the next episode of both of these things?
I think we did that with a matchup at one point, but we should go through our process first.
Yeah, we have a continuing part, a series of criterion, which form criteria. I truly think this is one where the process is going to make the difference. Sometimes I worry that people may think like this was decided by the gut check for minute 1, but it's not the case, and it'll be especially true this time because I'm not married to Fringe. It's just where my gut is lying.
Yeah. So let's talk about the moments, the memes, schemes, screams, and themes. First, memes, which had more moments of ironic or semi-ironic silliness. I think that's
Fringe. So Fringe. Yeah. Good on Fringe, man. I'm so proud of this like go-getter little show for making it this far.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
Yeah. The schemes, more moments of intrigue and plot movement. I think that's hard to say because like this is distinct from Clues, which has more plot to unravel and explore over time.
Yeah.
To me, the BSG episode has more moments of intrigue and plot movement.
Yep. Agreed 100%.
In the episode.
Within this episode, yes.
Within this episode, yeah. Screams, more moments of excitement and surprise.
Ooh. Excitement, huh? I think.
Yeah, where are you leaning on this?
I don't want to give you. Can you like think your answer and lock it in?
I already have my answer in my brain. Yeah,
mine is BSG.
Interesting. I was leaning Fringe.
Okay.
Give me the case for BSG having more moments of excitement and surprise.
I think the realization of the ship coming in was like a big moment of excitement and surprise. I think what's going on with Hilo is a couple of moments of excitement and surprise. Beyond that, and then like the moment where they blow up the ship is also its own little like, oh, that's not something I expected you guys to do.
Okay.
That's kind of all I have for it.
Yeah, I guess I'm with Fringe. It's like more of the body horror stuff that I think falls into this category, or like, oh my god, her DEA handler guy cut her palm open, and now we got this palm wound. This is gross. Or we're drilling into Zach Orth's head and there's blood coming out.
Oh,
it's stuff like that to me is sort of the like, I'm screaming kind of a thing.
I think Fringe can barely take that one. Skin of its teeth.
It's close though.
Yeah, it's really close.
The themes, I think that's BSG.
Yeah, it's a very, very thematically rich TV show. This is regardless of what wins this, both these episodes are really good. 33 is an incredible episode of television. I get the hype.
Yeah. I think
clear.
if it's just weighing like which is a better episode of TV, it's 33 100%.
No contest. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. But we're sort of having, a broader conversation about which show continues, which is a slightly different set of metrics.
Women light up the world. That's why it's called Broad Daylight.
Oh my gosh.
I got that from a tweet, to be fair, but he said broad, and I thought of that. Sorry.
Clunks, characters that were the characters, the Clunks, Hunks, Junks, and Punks. Clunks, characters that were dorkier in a fun way.
That's Fringe. Not enough dorks on BSG. Who's a dork? Billy.
Leah Dama's kind of a dork.
Yeah.
Billy's a dork. I think Gaius Baltar's a bit of a dork.
Yeah, ultimate dork. Sexy man dork.
I kind of think BSG has the dorks, because Fringe has the junks, like the eccentric characters. But
yeah, that's
if we're
different
just
from
looking
dorks.
for like some dorky doorknobs, I kind of think BSG has more dorks. Like Sam Witwer, shout out to Sam Witwer, was in the BSG episode, and he's kind of just a dork.
Yeah, I forgot about Sam Witwer.
He was hanging out with Boomer. He was Boomer's new pal.
Oh, okay.
Sam Witwer from Force Unleashed.
Yes, that's exactly. And also, I think he voices the Emperor in
Yes, he does.
Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay, I'll give it to BSG then.
BSG, the hunks. BSG.
Oh my god, he's Darth Maul in Solo, a Star Wars story. Fuck.
Yes, that's right.
Sorry, spoilers for Solo.
Hunks is BSG, right?
Yeah, hotter in a fun way, absolutely. There's not a lot of hotties on, unless how you feel about Charlie. But the problem is Charlie is every adult man that I work with at my job, so that's why I don't like to see him.
The junks, characters that are more eccentric in a fun way, I think that's Fringe.
That's Fringe, for sure,
That's
for
like
sure.
their bread and butter. And then the punks, characters that were more rebellious in a fun way.
I feel like Starbuck runs away with this.
Yeah, I think that's BSG. It's Starbuck, but it's also Ty is a little rebellious in his own way.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
They are rebellious for different generations.
Yeah. Foundations, the clues, crews, hues, and shoes. Clues, which has more plot to explore and unravel over time.
Really hard category this time.
Yeah. I want to give that to Fringo.
Okay. Say more.
Well, because it's like, well, what's up with Massive Dynamic? What's the deal with the pattern? Where does Olivia fit into all this? There's so much more Walter backstory. Oh, there was some implication about something's up with Peter a couple episodes ago that we don't know about yet.
Okay.
So the show has like secrets, and it's made clear that there are secrets to be revealed.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued in.
All right. I'm into it.
Intrigued with. I mean, BSG also has the like, there are Cylons among us, and what's up with that? And we're going
Among
to
Us?
Earth. Among Us. But I think to me, it's Fringe.
Okay. Which one has more massive dynamic? Ensemble dynamics to dig into.
That's BSG.
Yeah, quantity of ensemble, absolutely.
And also quality. Like, I think you show me any duo that has gotten substantial time on the BSG screen against any duo on Fringe, and I think BSG is just doing a better job.
Part of my problem with the Fringe, I have two problems with the Fringe ensemble. Number one is the Walter not knowing Astrid's name thing is getting annoying already. Number two, I think Olivia's a boring character.
Mm-hmm.
She's important, and her role is to solve things. And I'm sure we're gonna learn a lot more about her. But like so far, I'm not like, oh yeah, I can't. My favorite Olivia scene. It's like, no, she's just there to do action.
Yeah, it's not clear to me what they want to do with her, right? Because at least in the pilot and maybe the second episode, it felt like, okay, we're setting up this context and this backstory where she has done this internal affairs work and stood up against men in powerful positions, and so she kind of has this vibe of like, she wants to get to the bottom of things. She wants to find the kind of conspiracy. She wants to make sure that she holds people in power to account.
Yeah.
And she's kind of still on the path to doing that stuff, but it feels like she's a little passive right now because there's just characters who are withholding information from her, and she's not the sort of goofy, funny characters that everybody else is. So I want to see more from her, but yeah.
She's got potential.
Yeah. What about the hues? Which show has more tonal range?
I actually might give that to Fringe.
I think so.
Because Fringe can get lighter. BSG can't get that much lighter than it is right now.
Yeah. Very grim show. The shoes, more mileage from its base premise.
I mean, they do travel very far in BSG.
Yeah, they do. That's tough.
Mileage. I mean, what is the base premise of BSG? We're escaping the Cylons and trying to get home, trying to get back to Earth. I mean, what is the premise of Fringe? There is mysterious events happening out there, and we are the only ones who can solve them. Based on that alone, I think that's Fringe. Just the base premise, yeah.
Okay, we'll give that to Fringo. Adornments, fits, hits, and wits. The fits, better use of costumes and props. neither really stick out to me in either of these shows. The BSG costuming is like kind of, I think, purposefully understated, so that you can then do things like put Six in an all red dress or her like white jacket to kind of highlight the kind of ethereal nature of the human seeming Cylons.
Right.
But I think it ends up making the humans a little boring. And also, we're still doing the fucking octagonal paper. I hate that prop so much.
Isn't it hexagonal? I don't know.
Octagonal.
Octagonal. Got it. Yeah, you're really just gonna take points off of props for that, huh?
I am.
I wish I could give this to Fringe for CG, or not CG, because like the CG in BSG is like kind of rough. Like the outside ship shots in this like don't look very good.
Well, and the like the gifs of the Cylon soldier guys chasing Hilo around.
And then like Fringe has like great practical, I don't know if they're practical effects, but like all the like vein stuff in the main character, like that stuff's really cool. I think to the spirit of this question, it's Fringe.
I think so too.
I know costumes and props more means like outfits, but like they all wear very practical outfits on both of these shows, and prop wise, we don't use props in the same way that older shows did.
Yeah. I also think the BSG guns are like kind of boring. Like they could have been cooler guns.
Yeah, agreed. I want to notice the guns like in Babylon 5 when I'm like, those are tiny.
All right, the hits, better use of music.
I think I would just gently slide this towards BSG.
I think so too.
Because while Fringe does do more with music, and I feel like it's gonna do. I just finished Scrubs season 8 recently, folks. Magellan knows this. It's a great, incredible series finale to a show that has one more season. Oops. That was supposed to be a spinoff, and like that show has incredible music cues. And I can tell that Fringe is going to eventually try to do stuff like that, where it's like a profound moment is underscored by a really good music, like a needle drop. They just haven't done that yet. They're not doing that. And when they do, it's like it's an exterior shot of Boston, and they're playing like vaguely Boston music, and I don't like that. So I give this to BSG just for being like measured with its musical choices.
Yeah, I like the only moment that I took note of the music in Fringe was a song that felt tonally very odd when we were introducing the diner scene, and I didn't like it. So. Yeah. And BSG, the opening theme grew on me a little more this week, so I think it's BSG.
Okay.
Better use of cast and guests. What do you think of Zach Orth? We were so excited for like this funny guy, and then he's playing this like very anxious character.
He's collecting a check. He doesn't have too much to do other than to freak out and go like, "What's going on? Why am I hearing voices?" Yeah, which is fine. I think I want to like give this to nobody. Like this, neither of these episodes has like a remarkably good cast or guest. I think actually I'll give this to BSG personally because the sleepy acting is really good. Like very distinct from drunk acting. Sleepy acting is loud, irrational, impulsive, and otherwise very like low energy.
Yeah, there are sleepy acting is excellent.
There are great scenes where Rosalind is talking to Adama on the comm like, What do you think? I'm going to get close to the mic for this. What do you think we should do, Commander? And he's like, I think we should blow up 1,000 people. And she's like, yeah, I think that's actually a fair idea, dude.
Yeah, I love how they played the moment where they're about to get into a fight over the like jurisdiction.
Yep. Yes.
He's like, this is a military matter. And she's like,
okay.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go take a nap. Thank you so much for taking care of this.
Yes.
So good. And then the last question we have here, wits, which makes better use of the script and writing.
That's BSG. Come on.
All right, so if we count it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
BSG takes
7, 8, 9 to 7 BSG to Fringe.
It's always close.
Yeah, slight edge to BSG here. Yeah, I don't know. Let's look at the summaries of the next episode.
So, okay, these are. Sorry to make it harder for you. The next episode about these is going to be really good. At least based on the premise. So
I think I remember the next BSG episode, if I'm correct.
The next BSG episode is called Water. President Rosalind arrives on Galactica as Boomer's silence. I'm not going to read all of this. Boomer's silence side asserts itself. A series of explosions leads to the loss of 60% of the water, and they're forced to introduce rationing in search for H2O deposits. That's cool.
Oh, that's a different one than what I thought.
that's kind of cool to me is the thing.
The one I thought was next is there's like an episode, what's it called? Maybe it's way later in the season. But there's one that's like, there's a prison ship, and the prisoners like take control of the prison ship, and then they have to deal with this like diplomatic issue, and there's a cameo of the guy who played Lee Adama in the original series, who plays like the leader of the prisoners. It's like a pretty cool episode.
Very cool.
But I guess that's not when I thought it was.
Frick, dude.
Anyway.
Why are they gonna make this hard?
And then what's the Fringe episode about?
It's called The Arrival. A strange cylinder, which is somehow connected to Walter and a man known as the Observer, appears from the ground at a construction site. Oh my god. So, a strange cylinder, amazing. I almost don't need to hear anything else. The Observer is one of those like series long things about this show that I'm endlessly... Oh. Yeah, the Observer is like a person. He's like the smoking man of
Fringe.
Of Fringe, yes. So, just saying.
Wow, that got tough, didn't it?
I know, dude. I'm frustrated by it. I want to watch both of these so bad. And part of me is like, I invested so much in BSG. I watched a whole goddamn miniseries to get here. Now I deserve to just watch the good part of the show.
Uh-huh. It's like
whereas
a
Fringe is just
fallacy kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Oh god.
Okay, let's have like the sort of practical implications of a chat season conversation, because we did this with Xena and Stargate, I think.
Yeah.
So Fringe, 5 seasons, 100 episodes.
Perfect.
BSG is pretty similar to that, I think. Let me find
74 episodes across 4 seasons.
74 across 4. Okay, so it's a little shorter, but there's also the 1 season Caprica spinoff. There's the potential of there's like some TV miniseries or TV movies.
There's movies.
And then we could peek at the original a little bit. So for all intents and purposes, it's pretty similar length seasons of chats between
the premise of Caprica sounds bananas. I can't believe the show exists.
Mm-hmm. The whole prequel thing.
Yeah, well, the Greystones and the Adamas live together on a peaceful planet known as Caprica. Like, whoa, the Adama family?
Yeah.
Huh? I bet you it's bad.
I bet you it's mid.
And I know we both know a couple of spoilers about Fringe, but I still don't know the big stuff. So I'm just being aware of that. God, I wish the length was wildly different so this would be easier, huh?
Yeah.
It's like not different enough. Well, okay. Fringe has no spin-off media though, right?
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe some like comics or something, I bet.
Here's a question for you that might help. Which of these shows would you feel more comfortable being in the shit of for several months? Like, would you rather be like, I do a Fringe podcast with my friend. We're watching this wild show. It's called Fringe. There's these like wild mysteries, and we're like finding out all the stuff together week by week with our listeners. It's great. Or my friend and I are covering Battlestar Galactica, the original series. I've seen it before, but it's really fun seeing their like reactions to certain things, and like I think the politics of it as a like post 9/11 show are super interesting, if problematic, and we're gonna cover all of it and continue our legacy of doing sci-fi shows.
Right.
Sci-fi ship shows, to be clear.
Right. Yeah, I think it's when I think about that, this is sort of what comes to mind, because BSG is another installment in our coverage of like, our bread and butter, meat and potatoes. You put a bunch of people in a spaceship in space and see what it's all about. I don't know the extent to which listeners have been asking for BSG coverage prior to it appearing in the bracket this season. So it would be interesting to see if there is like the way that Farscape or Babylon 5 had these kind of like pocket communities of people who were so hungry to talk about those shows and re-experience them with someone who hadn't seen them before. I wonder if that exists for BSG, or if there's just it's too recent, or there's too much sourness from it ending weirdly. Whereas I bet you there is that kind of a desire for people to be able to talk about Fringe. But I have confidence that the week-to-week experience of discussing and talking about Battlestar Galactica will always be interesting, because it is like a highly serialized show. It's got that sort of like Game of Thrones-y quality where there's a massive ensemble and we're checking in on these different characters and moving their plots forward. And the first season is just really good. It's very engaging. And the show, as it goes on into later seasons, it mixes up the formula of what's happening, where are we, in ways that I think would keep it feeling fresh. Whereas Fringe, the week-to-week experience feels like it's very dependent on like how interesting the sort of case of the week is. And I think the larger show arc stuff that I've teased myself with is fascinating. I want way more of it. But how much of the actual experience of watching the show is that kind of stuff versus they always just sort of parcel out like a piece of it at the end of every episode. And then we're sort of left in our discussion to talk about, you know, a cool sci-fi idea, but how much of a TV episode was it really? So I don't know. That's where I'm kind of like, I'm much more interested in where Fringe goes and like uncovering that and discovering that and being surprised by it. But I definitely felt in our conversation this week that the Battlestar Galactica conversation was more robust. There was more to uncover there as like a discussion between the two of us. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, so I already have a pick now. I'll say
Okay.
that. I think I have a pick. You make great points. The conversation about this episode of BSG was more interesting to me. There are probably going to be some episodes of Fringe that were like, but like there's something fun about watching an optimistic, like a slightly more optimistic show with some really good body horror and stuff like that. Like just because there's less meat to chew on doesn't mean it's worse for us. But BSG is the closest thematically to Babylon 5 that we've gotten in a while. And I know we're going to be covering DS9 in a few weeks. So my only other concern is, are we doubling up on like, well, no, I don't think so. Because I think DS9 is not as serious. It's nowhere near as serialized as BSG.
Right.
I know that in my heart. So, God, this is hard. This is freaking hard, dude. Because one of these is going up against Xena Warrior Princess. You got to remember that, too. And could, in theory, blow it out of the water. Who knows? I thought I had it, and now I don't know if I have it.
I think I'm ready to vote.
Okay, I'm going to vote. Wait, can I just, like, give me, like, a couple seconds of silence to just, like, be in this decision?
Sure.
Okay, that was easy.
Okay.
It's decision time, folks. Magellan and I are going to write our picks in a Discord DM to each other, and then we are going to hit send at the same time. And from there, if we differ, we'll continue talking. And if we don't, we have a winner. Are you ready? Have you typed your pick in?
Yes, I have.
3, 2, 1, go. Let's go.
Wow. Unprecedented. We both changed our mind to Fringe. Or to BSG. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip.
Wow, no, we both changed our minds to BSG. Oh, so close, guys. So freaking close. And now it's serialized versus villain of the week next week. We have to make the fundamental choice of what do we want Chat's season 16 to be. BSG
This was hard because Fringe is one that I was pulling for, and it was the one that I predicted to win it all. If you go look at my bracket prediction, I thought for sure Fringe was going to win.
Yeah.
I think this episode just like didn't quite give me enough of like a great experience thinking deeply about the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it lost out to BSG. But Fringe is a show that I'd love to revisit and watch more of because I have been really enjoying it so far.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. So if folks are open to us doing like a battle for third place between Fringe and Stargate, that would just be a really fun excuse to watch more another episode of both of those shows.
Agreed.
Yeah. But BSG will continue on. Part of the reason I voted for BSG was also so that the finals of Couch Madness would be the shows that are like the weirdest to make chat season titles out of. And we can have a long conversation about what do we call the Xena Warrior Princess and the Battlestar Galactica seasons.
Xena Warrior Chatsess versus
Battlestar Chatlactica.
Battlestar Galactica. I like Galactica. I probably said literally the first time that I hate Galactica, but now I like Galactica.
I want Chatlactica.
Ugh, that has the worst mouthfeel possible.
I know. I love it.
Fair enough.
Battlestar Chatlactica.
So that brings us to what we're doing next time, Michelle. What's up?
That's right. So I believe next week we're taking a week off because of various reasons.
I'm traveling.
Out of town. It's my girlfriend's birthday, so we're gonna take the week off.
Yay!
There'll be a feed filler on the feed, probably some rerun Patreon content or something like that, so you can check that out. And yeah, after that, the week after that, we will have our final matchup of Couch Madness to close out the month of March here, between Xena Warrior Princess and Battlestar Galactica. Do you want to read? Which one of those descriptions do you want to read? And I could find the other one.
I'm gonna read the Xena one. I guess I did just read the BSG one, but if you could find it,
yeah, but I'll find it and read it.
Yeah. Okay, so for the final Couch Madness, we're watching Xena Warrior Princess, Season 1, Episode 4, Cradle of Hope. King Gregor has ordered the capture of a newborn infant foretold to take his throne, but Xena and Gabrielle find the baby first. The mysterious Pandora and her box join the confusion, keeping Hope safe.
Oh my god.
Yummy!
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Delicious. King Gregor, Pandora and her mysterious box.
Hey, Xena, bringing the heat.
Are feasting.
All right. And then we've got from Battlestar Galactica, Season 1, Episode 2, Water. Sharon wakes up soaking wet, covered in red stains, carrying an explosive. 6 more bombs are missing from the locker. Who's controlling her, and where has she been?
So Sharon's Boomer, right?
Boomer, yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so cool that they're doing Boomer stuff this early. I thought that they were going to drag that out.
Yeah, me too.
I'm into it. I think that then brings us to some plug stuff. I believe it's it's your turn. I don't know anymore.
I don't know. I'll take it. I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, folks, for listening to this episode of Couch Madness. If you want to hear us in other places, Alan, where can people find you?
You can find me on a couple podcasts. I'm on scanlinemedia.com, co-hosting The Creature Quorum, which is a Pokemon and Monster Hunter review podcast. You can also hear me on the Garnet Wager every month or so, doing actual play and storytelling and game show reviews. You can also hear me every other month on Talking Marketing, which is a bi-monthly marketing podcast I do for my volunteer job with AMA Boston. What about you?
You can find me on another podcast, Super Smash Echoes, that I do with my friend Justin. It's a video game podcast where we discuss video games that are related to the various characters and their franchises represented in Super Smash Brothers. So Super Smash Echoes, check that out. And you can also read my writing on my Substack, notthatmagellan.substack.com. If you want to get in touch with us here at Chats a Television Podcast, there are a couple of options for you. You can email us at chatspot@gmail.com. We especially would love to hear from you if you have thoughts on this final contest between Xena Warrior Princess and Battlestar Galactica. Which of those would you want to hear turned into a season of chats? Let us know over on our email, and we would read your thoughts on the episode if you're interested in that. You can also follow us at ChatSpot on X, and you could DM us there if that's a preferred method of communication for you. We are on YouTube. All of our episodes are released on YouTube. If that is a place that you would like to consume this content, the channel is called Chats a Television Podcast. We're also on, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you can find podcasts. And if you do find our podcast somewhere, consider rating, reviewing, recommending, all the things that help us to grow and reach new people. You can also support us with money over at our Patreon, patreon.com/chatspot. $1 a month gets you onto the Discord, where we talk about the shows that we watch. We have all sorts of fun chatting about media, about life, about everything in between. $3 a month gets you onto our bonus episodes, so you can hear those twice a month. once a month is a bonus episode decided on by us. In this month, we're going to be having our 3rd annual installment of our TV Trivia Showdown to see who gets to pick pilot chats for the show. And then the other episode this month is going to be chosen by a listener suggestion. So you'll hear that later in the month. We'll probably spin the wheel for that. Well, maybe we should do that now.
Ooh, I think it's a great idea.
All right.
He's going up to the physical wheel right now, y'all.
All right. Here it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is big. This feels huge.
Oh, I found a charger that I was missing under the desk when I took the wheel out.
Congrats.
So that's nice. Does this have everything? Yeah, maybe I didn't write on that. Wedge. Let me just check the Patreon real quick. Make sure that we didn't get any additional suggestions. Patreon. Oh, Patreon. Oh, honey. Patreon. Okay, cool. So again, if you are a patron at $3 or $5 a month, we sent you a direct message on Patreon asking you to suggest something to go onto this wheel. I'm going to spin it now to let you know what the second bonus episode is going to be of the month of March. Some of these wedges are not filled in, so if you hear me spin it multiple times, it's because I landed on a blank wedge and I got to spin it again. Here we go. Ready?
I'm ready.
Our second bonus episode of the month of March will be... So this is a suggestion that comes from Kyrie, piloting the first episode of the Fox drama series Lie to Me, starring Tim Roth.
Yes! Let's go! Pilot Chats is back, baby.
You can hear us discussing the first episode of Lie to Me later in the month of March.
Oh, and it's on Hulu. So convenient. Oh.
So convenient, so easy.
Now hit me with that 45-minute pod. Tell me it's not 90 minutes. There's no way it's 90 minutes. It's 45 minutes! Ah! I'm so happy.
Anyway, so that's that. $5 a month gets you thanked right here at the end of every episode. Our $5 patrons, our Chatsy Watsy Deluxe Comfort Plus members are Arthur, Emrys, Felicia, Jen, Justin, Kyrie, Lee, Marcus, May Louise, my mom, Nick and Pat of the Brothers in Infinite War, Noel, Six, and Stefan. Thank you, folks, for supporting the show. Thank you also to @Camillustrator for creating our podcast art. And now, Alan, it's time for... Oh my god, what is this freaking promotional image?
The Hulu promo image for Lie to Me is Tim Roth with his knuckles out, and he has knuckle tats that say "Truth Hurts," TRTHHRTC.
Oh my lord, that is
what a bad Photoshop job also.
Yeah. Anyway, chatsums, little suggestions, things to munch on between now and next time. Alan, what's your chatsum for folks for this week?
Oh, it's Oscar night tonight, folks.
That's true.
I have 8 people coming over tonight, so I'm a little. It's the most people I've ever had at my apartment at once. Yeah, it kind of bloomed really quickly. Yeah, but I'm excited, and I've got ballots and bingo cards prepped. I've got snacks I'm purchasing after this recording.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's like going to be the highlight of my weekend props, besides doing this, obviously. And I finished watching all the Best Picture noms. That's not every movie that was nominated, but that's all the 10 that are nominated for Best Picture. So I've already talked about most of the ones I've watched, but in the past week, I finished it off with Zone of Interest, which is my chatsum for this week. Wow, what an achievement. If this movie doesn't win Best Sound, then the Oscars are stupid, is my decision. So it's basically about the family that lives in a home complex right outside of the Auschwitz concentration camp during the Holocaust. The father of this family runs Auschwitz also, and it is a dark, sad film that is filmed and produced so carefully. You always hear the horrors of the Holocaust in every single scene of this movie, and you never see them. So much of what makes this movie work is that it's about the banality of evil, right? It's about the ways that we in our day-to-day life can read the news, can see things, and then we can go about our day and say, let's make a funny podcast. Let's make food together. Let's like hang out. It's like there are people being dehumanized, murdered, and worse just down the road, you know, in the case of Zone of Interest. And we're choosing not to hear that. And we're, you know, blocking out that sound and trying to carve out our little existence in our corner. I think it is a very unique portrayal of the Holocaust that you don't see in other movies, because that's like kind of a tried and true, or not tried and true, but like there are a lot of Holocaust movies, right? But Zone of Interest manages to work and engender empathy for the people on the other side of that fence by not showing them. And I think by you hearing them, you learn a lot. And so this movie is technically brilliant and worth your time if you can handle the emotional weight of its subject matter. Yeah. So huge rec to Zone of Interest. Obviously, big honking content warnings aside, I think it's got to win that at least. But I think if I'm shooting my shot, because again, we're recording this on the morning of Oscars, it's going to be Oppenheimer. It just is.
Ugh,
and
so boring.
I know, it really is. It's not my favorite movie. My favorite is Past Lives. I've talked about it. If Past Lives doesn't win anything, I'll be really mad. So we'll see. Oscar night and Zone of Interest. That's my chat zone. What about you?
Let me invite you all into my latest hyper focus.
Yes.
I've decided that it's time that I get really into Magic the Gathering.
Yes!
And so here's some recommendations from my first week of really closely thinking about this and learning stuff about it. So if you want a great YouTube channel to learn the rules of Magic, but also to see people playing Magic, having fun doing it, I highly recommend Tolarian Community College, which is run and hosted by a guy named The Professor. Ooh. And the other great thing about the Tolarian Community College page is they have this series called Shuffle Up and Play, where they play all these different Magic formats with a variety of guests, some who are professional players, some who are other content creators. And I saw in one of the comments of one of the videos, and I agree with this, someone saying that they appreciate how many of the guests on that series are people who are trans or non-binary or people of color. And it's just a nice place to discover members of the Magic community and like the work that they're doing or the way that they think about the game. So Tolarian Community College, Shuffle Up and Play specifically, is a really fun series on there. And then I've also been really enjoying the video essays. I'm already at the stage of this hyper-focus where I'm like watching philosophical, self-serious video essays about this. Yeah. So there's this channel called Rhystic Studies, RHYSTIC, which is a channel of long-form video essays about like the history and culture surrounding various Magic cards or Magic mechanics. I really enjoyed, I think a good intro one is an essay called, I believe it's called Red Deck Wins. And
there it is.
Essentially, it's about like the philosophy of running a Magic deck where you either have to win in the first 4 turns or you lose. And it does a good job of kind of comparing that stylistically to like people who try to do wild skateboard tricks and they either land it or they break their legs. And, you know, what is this kind of way of approaching this game and approaching life all about? And I thought it was really cool. If you're wanting to spend money, which be careful when it comes to Magic, they just released some tie-in sets themed around Fallout, which was very exciting to me. So I bought the Hail Caesar Commander deck. And
they know their freaking audience.
Yeah, as somebody who's a big fan of Fallout New Vegas specifically, flipping through the cards in there and seeing how they took concepts from Fallout and realized them in Magic was really cool. And I think all of those decks are a fun way to enter into getting some cards of your own. And the last is my last recommendation. I also picked up, they had this set that was Magic Clue Edition. And the way it works is they have cards that represent like the weapons, rooms, and characters from Clue, but they've kind of like set all of that in in Ravnica, which is one of their settings. So they've kind of coolified.
Oh.
It's not Colonel Mustard, it's Commander Mustard, and
Okay.
that kind of thing. And essentially there's a rule set and the materials in there and cards that you can play with to play a version of Magic where you're basically playing Magic and Clue at the same time.
Whoa.
And you either win by winning Clue or by winning Magic. And it's just such a funny thing to exist. And again, it's like there's an audience of one for this product, and it's me, and I bought it. So yeah, those are my recs. If you want to poke around and get interested in Magic in this exact week, in the same way that I've been. Yeah,
brilliant. I'll include links to all of those. We have a Chasms doc in the episode description that you guys can see if you need more links and recommendations. And that's awesome. I love it when my friends get new hyperfixations. There's nothing better than that. Anyways, thank you, Magellan, for being the Ravnica. No, for being the number 6 to my guy Baltar. I've already used that one. No, we need another one. Frick. What was the other show we watched this week? Oh, Fringe. Peter to my... Oh, what's the guy's name? What's the shitty guy's name on that show? I got this, dude. What's the guy who... Charlie. Thanks for being the Charlie to my Olivia, because we are the true correct ship of this show, despite not being in any way canonically validated. And I'm sure that won't be proven wrong by future events. Anyways, thanks for listening to Couch Madness, folks. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.